On Christmas Eve, two strangers, both in their 70s, met on a park bench in the falling snow. They had never spoken before, but each carried the same quiet ache, a life full of people, yet no one to truly belong to. What began as a simple walk to escape the cold became a bond that would change both of their lives forever. And by the next Christmas, one of them would leave behind a gift neither could have imagined. What happened next, and what did fate have in plans for both of them? Listen until the end of today's story to find out. Please also subscribe to our channel and let us know which part of the world you're listening from. It was Christmas Eve in New York City. The Upper West Side glimmered under strings of warm lights, storefronts dressed in garlands and ribbons, and the air thick with the scent of cinnamon and roasted chestnuts from the street vendors. But for Arthur Winslow, none of it mattered. At 72, dressed in a long charcoal coat and polished leather shoes, he sat on a weathered bench at the edge of Central Park. His gloved hands rested on the curved head of a walnut cane, the last gift from his late wife, Evelyn. Evelyn had been gone a year now, 50 years of marriage, and then just silence. Their brownstone on West 83rd Street was as immaculate as ever, but the laughter was gone. His two children, grown, successful, called less and less. He told himself they were busy. Deep down, he knew better. Snow began to fall in delicate flakes, dusting his coat. He exhaled slowly, watching the breath drift into the night air. That's when he noticed her. A woman in her early 70s, petite, wrapped in a deep plum wool coat with a cream scarf tucked neatly at her throat. Her hair, silver and swept into a low bun, escaped in gentle wisps that the wind teased. She moved slowly, cautiously, as if each step cost her effort, but there was grace in it too. She stopped in front of him. "Mind if I sit?" she asked, her voice warm but tentative. Arthur shook his head. Not at all. She eased herself onto the bench beside him. For a while they sat in comfortable silence, watching skaters loop around the ice rink across the street. "My name's Marian Parker," she said at last. "I live just a few blocks over." Arthur Winslow. Her lips curved into a small smile. "You're out here alone on Christmas Eve?" He nodded. "Seems I am." She was quiet for a moment. "Me too. My son and his family invited me for dinner, of course. They always do. But, well, I suppose there's a difference between being invited and truly belonging." Arthur's gaze softened. She continued, almost apologetically. "It's not that they're unkind, they just don't really see me. I'm part of the background now, a chair at the table, not a voice in the conversation." Something in Arthur's chest ached. "I understand that more than you know." She looked at him then, really looked. And for a heartbeat, the city noise faded. Two strangers, bound by a quiet, unspoken loneliness. Marian tilted her head. "I was just on my way to their place. It's nothing fancy. They live above my daughter-in-law's deli on Amsterdam Avenue. Why don't you come with me? It's warmer than this bench, I promise." Arthur hesitated. "I wouldn't want to intrude." "Nonsense," Marian said with a little laugh. "I could use an ally." Something in her tone, light but edged with truth, made him stand. "All right then." They walked slowly through the snow-dusted streets, two sets of footsteps side by side. When they reached the narrow stairwell above the deli, the warm light spilling from the doorway almost hurt Arthur's eyes. The door opened before Marian could knock. A woman in her 40s, her cheeks flushed from cooking, stood there. "Mom," she said to Marian, surprise flickering across her face before she noticed Arthur. "This is Arthur," Marian explained. "He was keeping me company in the park. I thought maybe he could join us." The woman hesitated only a beat before stepping back. "Come in." The apartment was small, but alive with warmth. Rosemary and roasted potatoes in the air, mismatched plates on the table, a paper star garland strung across the window. Arthur found himself seated between Marian and her teenage granddaughter, who offered him a shy smile. Dinner was simple but full of heart. He found himself talking more than he had in months, sharing little stories, listening to theirs. Marian, too, seemed lighter, laughing at her grandson's dry jokes, asking Arthur about books he liked. Later, when the younger ones drifted off to watch a Christmas movie, Marian poured them both tea in mismatched mugs. "You know," she said quietly, "I've been to this dinner for years, but this is the first time I've really enjoyed it." Arthur smiled faintly. Maybe we both just needed someone to notice we were still here. Over the weeks that followed, Arthur returned often. Sometimes with pastries from a bakery near his home, other times with a bottle of wine Marian liked. They went for walks, repaired a broken bookshelf in her living room, sat in the park just talking. One snowy afternoon, Arthur stood on Marian's narrow balcony as he helped untangle a string of twinkling lights. Marian stood beside him as they worked together, carefully looping the lights along the railing. Arthur paused for a moment. "You know," he said, his voice quiet but steady, "I never thought I'd find friendship again. Not like this. Not at this age." Marian looked up at him. "Maybe friendship isn't something we find," she said softly. "Maybe it finds us once we've stopped chasing after the wrong things." Arthur smiled faintly, the corner of his mouth lifting. "If that's true, then I'm glad it found me here." She gave a gentle laugh, adjusting the final strand of lights. "Me too, Arthur. Me too." For a long moment, they simply stood there side by side, the balcony glowing gently around them while the snow kept falling. The next Christmas Eve, Arthur wasn't on the park bench. He was in Marian's apartment, setting out the mismatched plates with her while her family bustled in the kitchen. After dinner, she handed him a neatly wrapped package. Inside was a paper star, golden and a little crooked. On it, in looping handwriting, were the words, "For my friend Arthur." Arthur's throat tightened, his fingers brushing the uneven edges of the paper star. "You've given me more than you know," he said, his voice rough, each word carrying the weight of quiet winters spent alone. "You've given me warmth, a place to come back to. Something I thought I'd lost forever when Evelyn passed." Marian's eyes shimmered as she reached across the table, resting her hand gently over his. "And you've given me something I never realized I'd been missing," she said softly. "A friend who sees me, someone who listens, someone who makes me feel like I truly belong." Arthur swallowed hard, holding her gaze. "Then I suppose we've both given each other the one thing money can't buy." Marian's lips curved into a warm, knowing smile. "Yes, Arthur, we've given each other home." A year later, Arthur passed quietly in his sleep. Weeks after the funeral, Marian received a visit from Martin Feldman, Arthur's lawyer. He handed her an envelope and a thick folder. Arthur had left her the bulk of his estate, not out of romance but out of gratitude. The letter read, "To Marian, the friend who reminded me that the heart can still open even in winter. You gave me warmth when I thought it was gone. This is not a gift, but a thank you. Love, Arthur." Marian pressed the letter to her chest, tears slipping down her cheeks. She stood in the quiet of her living room long after the lawyer had gone, the letter still clutched to her chest. Marian realized then that family wasn't just the people you shared a name with, or the ones bound to you by blood. Sometimes the family you find in your later years, the ones who choose you, who see you, who make space for you at their table, can fill the empty places in your heart more deeply than those you've known all your life. Arthur had arrived in her world as a stranger on a bench, yet he left it having given her something priceless, proof that it's never too late to belong and never too late to be loved. So tell me, if you had seen two strangers sitting alone on a cold Christmas Eve, would you have stopped to invite them in, knowing it might change both of your lives forever? Please share your thoughts in the comments below, and thank you for listening to Fragile Stories. Please do subscribe to our channel.